Hello again, viewers, and greetings, fellow space travelers. This is Thorn of Night, and welcome back to another lovely day on the Performium Duck SMP. And I think it actually is lovely right now because, as I understand it, it is no longer raining, but it does seem to be pretty dark. I do love starting right here, though. This is a great place to stand. I get to see the terrain, the cattails, the mushrooms, the duckweed out there. And this thing, okay, so this thing here I do need to work on. And last episode I never got around to it, but I promise this episode my eyeball feels better and I have lots of ideas on how to improve this and integrate some of the original ideas and concepts of it, maybe expand the palette a little bit, but kind of stick to the original idea. So this is my main objective for starting something new for this episode, but there's still the matter of starting something old. And uh, oh, one thing I did before I get into that, one thing I did realize about this lake is it really honestly does not matter how much light I put down here because the way light works with water is it is perfectly it absolutely makes it dark here. If this is a light source block, I think it illuminates here. There's fake illumination out here. This is not actual brightness. And then anywhere away from the light, it is 100% dark and spawnable space. So for instance, a creeper could spawn right here and right here, even though there's a light source right there, because water completely blocks light. Absolutely, it might as well be a whole solid block. Yeah, and then you get that sort of thing to happen. I'm just going to go in here past the force field. Haha, you can't get me. Anyway, um, just an observation. I am going to go back inside. Ooh, do I want to work on this next? Not this episode. I think I want to work on this room a little bit next time. Yeah. Oh, you may notice that he is smiling extra hard right now because he's just learned something. He has learned that some of you guys have listened to the sign there. Check this out. You guys do have the power to change this, and it is changing for the better. Look at that. 2 new subscribers. Welcome, fellow space travelers. Anyway, let me just feed here. There is a lot of glass in my inventory, you may have noticed, and that is because we have been cooking a lot of glass and working on a whole bunch of the waves from the previous episode. As a matter of fact, speaking of the wave, to put it in perspective, this is a fully expanded map. So you start with the map and you activate it at the spot and then you put more paper around it and do that 3 or 4 times. I think it's 4 times, and you get the fully expanded map. This is a fully expanded map, and this is the wave at this point. This is what it looks like. Uh, the cleared out area in the middle there that's been torched up, you can see that, and that is 173 per side. So this is 700 blocks all the way across. But we have been cooking glass and cooking glass and cooking glass and getting blaze rods for fuel because blaze rods cook 12 items instead of 8, and that's a nice renewable resource. We do not use coal for burning because that's a nice black building block. Charcoal is fine, but blaze rods we can just get from swinging at a pile of blazes, while charcoal you have to go chop down trees. So it's depending on what you want to do, chopping or murdering. You know, there's options, but that's how to get some renewable fuel on this server. We don't want to use coal though. So I have a bit more of swapping out to do, getting some more sand in place so I can get some glass cooking, but I don't necessarily have to do that right now. I have some glass ready to go here. Actually, let me go ahead and take that. We have a bunch of glass cooking. We have a bunch of glass out there at the volcano build, and I'm going to go ahead and take this out there because home volcano, because there is a lot of stuff still to do. What was that? What happened there? Anyway, I am down here. There's a lot of stuff left to do. Last thing I did before I wrapped up the previous episode, I believe, was put in this row here, or this ring. I have these to put in. I'll probably just start with the base and then go around and put in 3 tall because you can, if you do this, you can stand up here, and if you're standing you can't quite reach, but if you're crouching you can just go 3 and 3. We are working out and trying to fill in the Cuddles mostly is trying to do the underwater while I'm doing the wave, and it's pretty quickly going through our glass and sand supplies, but I think we have enough to finish the wave for now at least, and potentially enough to do the glass, but then there's a next phase that we're going to do where we have to, come in and fill all the water or sponge all the water away. One thing that I did discover, here, let me do some inventory management just a second. I'm going to come down here because one thing that I did discover is, and this was some time ago, we have been, as we fill in or deleted the water, we would place the sponges, they'd soak up the water, and then we'd go through by hand and punch like that. And it doesn't take a long time, but say you've got 3 of them, it takes a little bit of time. But with a hoe, you can harvest sponges, and normally it's pretty quick. But did you see that little pause that happened there? On this server, if I come through and break these sponges at hose speed, it only gets every other one. So either way, you have to go back and figure out which ones the tick rate has ignored. And it is a little bit troublesome. The same sort of thing happens when breaking pistons and sticky pistons. You kind of have to just use your bare hand in order to break them, because if you break them with anything above, I think, an efficiency 3 pick, they pretend to break and then they just reappear, and it's hit or miss whether it actually pops back off or it stays gone. So uh, building with some blocks on here, or at least harvesting with some of the blocks that are placed, is kind of squirrely, but I chalk that up to this being maybe I'm using a 1.19 client on a 1.12.2 server, so that's probably got a lot to do with it. But just an interesting discovery I thought I'd share with you. I am very eager to get to work on this, and I am going to just muscle through and see if I can. I want to try to get this part done first and see how far along that can go. I might even just try to expand the top of this a little bit. So I am going to get out there and start building in a great big circle, and then I will be right back. So, you may notice that there is a slight modification to the design. I pushed the crest of the wave out a little bit and had it drop down 1 block further because it looked like it was just a little too cramped. But you also may notice that there is a non-cobblestone block for every single one of these. As I was going, I would come back and for each ring that I did or each layer, whatever, I would put a block in to represent from the palette that I was using for that area to represent that it was done. And if you look carefully, you can see everything is done. So let's go take a look at it. I am very happy with the way this turned out. This is thousands and thousands of blocks. Each ring is 1,000 blocks, so this is probably infinite. Yeah, incalculably many. No, it's calculable. I just haven't done the math yet, but it is pretty sizable. You can actually come in under here. Uh, I had a couple of things spawn on the wool at night, and you know what? That's fine. It looks just like a ring, but so does any other blast wave. If you watch those videos online, you see an explosion off in the distance and the dust and debris getting kicked up from the ground in a big ring that goes all the way out from the middle and then reaches the camera. It looks basically like this. There's just a wave of debris coming your way, and that's what this is. It is a wave, but know that the cross section does go all the way through and under, and this is all blocks solidly under here and inside, and it is pretty much done. Now what I am going to be doing in order to make this have that extra bit of realism is once all the water is taken out of here, the top block of glass here is going to be getting removed all the way around so that let me put this back just because it bothers me. As you approach, what you'll see is water cascading all the way down. And I'm probably going to even modify some of the hills and things that are under here. We'll see, but uh, I want to make it look as much as reasonable, like there's just a wave being pushed out. But I want the water to be back here. That's why I just used only clear glass, none of the fancy stuff, because underwater, even with good shaders and things, it's really hard to tell if you've got blues and clears and whites and things for your glass. It just all looks like glass, mostly. This is the wave. It is done. So the next part of this project is before I even get to building the volcano. We are going to be dividing this into, I think, eighths or sixteenths or something like that. And then we're going to fill it in with sand and then torch remove everything all the way through one little segment at a time. And the reason behind that is even with the gravel on the bottom, I want to be doing a lot of terrain changes through here. And so it doesn't really matter to me if there is gravel on the bottom. I'm going to be making sort of a custom biome out of this area. So it's going to be torn down to just bare stone. Then I'm going to be coming back through, changing the levels and things, and then going through and placing stone, cobblestone, maybe some more gravel, and then maybe a couple other blocks to make the area. Oh, some wolves would be nice. To make the area have a little variance to go with it. That's going to be a slow enough project that I probably won't be doing a update every video, maybe once every couple of weeks or something to show an update, but it's it's going to be pretty tedious. So in the meantime, I would like to go ahead and get started on that tree that I wanted to do last episode, and I promised this episode. So let's get back to the base and see what we can do about changing the tree. I'll be right back. Okay, cleared out my inventory, got some demonstration blocks for the palette, and let's take a look at what this is down at its core. We have what is meant to be a dark oak tree of sorts, and on it are these platforms that are made of an assortment of the light gray terracotta, the white terracotta, the plain terracotta, and then these observation areas made of the green stained glass. And then the rest of the build is largely made out of dark oak planks, dark oak slabs, dark oak stairs, there we go, stairs, and obviously also dark oak logs. Some various leaves, but I think that I could probably just focus with using the leaves that come from the tree itself as dark oak and then have maybe some vines going up and then surround it with some normal sized dark oak trees or uh, wait a minute. Ooh, you know what? It occurs to me that this is a spruce, but these are dark oak here. Spruce does look nice, and it does look nice with that plank as far as color matching because the dark oak, I have some on me. The dark oak is a little more, I guess, creamy colored, while this sort of shares the the color tones with the spruce logs. So what I could do, instead of building some or planting some dark oaks around the base of it, I could just go ahead and use the spruce trees to just do a single block sapling instead of making a 2x2 to do something like that. Then, well, I mean, I could also have a couple of the 2x2s. I'll think about that. But the scale of this is just, I'd mentioned it before, it's a little smaller than I'd like. Oh, and also there's the green carpet. I almost forgot about that. But the scale of this is pretty small, especially by my standards. So what I'm thinking is instead of having, a 2x2 tree like this, why not have the footprint, the base of the trunk, be about this big? And what I could do is chop all this down and actually make this be the trunk and slowly shrink it in until I can make a 2x2 somewhere up here and then grow it until it is one of these versions as opposed to that nonsense right there. That would be awful. And then everything below the top, I will start doing the custom branches that just come out and down and get further and longer as they get towards the bottom. And then on the way up, there will be these little, well, not little, these sizable viewing platforms and walking places. Maybe put a little house inside of the tree or something and have an observation deck maybe just under the top part of the tree just so that it pays a nod to the original design here. And I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 decks spaced much further apart than this, with stairs that go around and through the trunk. Yeah, I'm seeing some possibilities here in my head. I don't think I want to have the regular oak around the base. It stands out too much as being overly different from the premise of the build. So what I'll do is I'll tear this down. I'll drop the footprint of this down to the ground so I can see if I want to make any minor changes to the layout of that. And then I'm going to start building the trunk up with spruce logs. It's spruce, not dark oak. I was mistaken. Apologies. And then as I go up and in, I will decide where the best place to put the observation decks will be. Yeah, I'm seeing it sort of come together in my head, so I'm going to get to work on this. It shouldn't take a whole lot of time to get the tree built, but we'll see. And I'll give you an update once I get at least the trunk and maybe the top grown in. And I guess I'll be right back. So I've done a little bit of the prep work. I've torn down the top of the tree, left this little glass bit, and kept the shape of everything. And I've gone ahead and generally surrounded the area that I want the trunk base to be. But while I was doing that, what I wanted to show you was there is a bit of an underground area here that seems to be deliberate, but had no actual access point. So I think what I'm going to do is try to implement this, maybe have like a little a knot right here that you can go down under the tree, and then another way to go up. But I am just about ready to start forming the tree. I'm going to tear the rest of this down, the wood bits, leave this glass here so I have a reference point, and then it's time to start building a tree. So I'm going to get to work. I want to get two things done in this episode: the wave and this entire tree. Wish me luck. Just a real quick update on the progress of the tree. I have the shape of the main part of the trunk in place with a little tree on top, and it was starting to look a little bit funny. It felt like it was tapering up to a point too soon, but then I remembered I'm going to be putting boughs of needles, well, leaves on here, so it's not going to be as funny looking. I am going to add, at least here, one large root. Probably have one root come down over here. Obviously, not nearly as large as over there. And maybe have a root that sort of arches over and comes down to over here and then just goes into the ground flat. I'm undecided on that one though. But for sure, that one, absolutely. Also, I have decided on how I'm going to have the access point to down below. The interior of this is entirely spoopy and all dark, but that's okay because things can't spawn up there because there's no solid blocks for them to spawn on. Speaking of solid blocks, instead of torching all of this up, after I get all the platforms in that I'm going to be putting in, I am thinking what I will be needing to do in order to keep the color palette okay is just do that. I mean, it's obviously I'm going to have to deal with a weird color on top of the log anyway, but I think this will work. So I'm thinking of slabbing just the top of all of the different logs, and then there will be some platforms weaving in and around the tree in some places, so I don't have to platform those or slab those, but we should be seeing a finished tree here soon enough. The hard part is going to be for me to decide exactly how to do the boughs and the branches and whatnot. But with a little bit of practice and maybe a little math, I should be able to get it hammered out. So I'm going to get to work on the branches, and then after the branches are in place, I will be putting in the pathways that lead up, at least part way up the tree. And then I'm going to say for the first brush with this tree, it should be done. I will probably come back later, add some more details, and then um, probably add some critters and things all over this place once I get everything more built up. So this isn't necessarily going to be done, probably neither is that. But I wanted to get this thing fundamentally started. And I think having the tree in place, the branches, and the platforms should be a good enough stopping point. So that's what I'm aiming for. I'll be right back. All right, I've looked at how much footage I've got, and I've decided that I need to make this my stopping point. But I think you'll be happy with the progress. There is an entire tree, and I even put some smaller ones around it. I fleshed out the root a little bit. I haven't put any of the platforms and viewing decks and things in, no winding staircase or anything like that, but we have a giant tree. Actually, let's make it light out. There we go. We have a giant tree. For now, I have decided not to have a big root come over here and then arch over. It's supposed to emulate that maybe this was the ground level and it sort of eroded away, which is ultimately what it's supposed to represent, I suppose. But this is good enough for now. This is generally where the platform is going to be. I don't think that it'll work too well here exactly. Maybe slightly over to the side. Could have it at the same level, that wouldn't be a problem, but maybe just rotate it around a bit. You can see that I put a little variation on each of these little branches. Well, little, on each of these huge branches. Some of the leaves hanging from below, a little bit of fluffiness to them around each one. I was going to go with a random location for each one of these, but then it started turning into just too much work. So this is the good enough end result. It turned out far better than I was anticipating in the first place. So there is that, but I did have to make a decision on this, whether I wanted this branch to come all the way out here. I don't know when it all comes down to it how high the wall is going to end up being, the barrier of bark around the place. So I'm just going to say that this one is truncated to here. I might even have to end up tearing off some of these leaves, but that's fine. The rest of these are pretty sizable and come all the way out to their full length. It is a massive tree. I don't remember exactly how tall it is. I think that, yeah, it is at least 20, maybe 25 taller than that thing over there, the ink cap. So this is now the biggest one in the claim for now. I need to wrap up this video. I finished the wave. I, for the most part, finished the tree, and I am happy with the progress from today. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. If you like this video, do give it a like. I appreciate it, and it does help. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so that I can make that 2,000 goal and beyond for subscribers. I welcome all of you new viewers to the channel. Welcome, fellow space travelers. But I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you very much for watching. This is Thorn of Night, and I will talk to you later.